Who does risk advisory across the entire journey. And so they can expect to receive expert advice, expert opinion on risk management, and more importantly, know that we will be there securing their tomorrow.
Talk to us on 0719 044 000 or email us at info@minet.co.ke.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is March Towards Your Future. We intend to give practical steps for retirement confidence. My name is Mary Gitau. I'm in client relationship and a pensions division, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. We are very delighted to have all of you join us, and we take a practical look at how we can prepare for retirement and with more clarity and confidence. Before we begin, just a brief housekeeping guidelines. Please have your microphone muted so that we can hear those who will be speaking throughout the section. We'll also allow you to unmute your microphone during question and answers, as well as having you type any questions that you have, and our at the end of this presentation. Those are the few housekeeping rules. Officially open our session. It is my pleasure to invite Mr. Daniel Mainga. Daniel Mainga is our General Manager, Pensions Division at Minet. He will be giving us an opening remark. Daniel, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, and Minet clients at large. On behalf of Minet Kenya, I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar. This session, March Towards Your Future, the practical steps for retirement confidence, is really part of our continued commitment to support you in making informed and confident decisions about your financial future. So we do welcome you so that you can get to benefit from what you're discussing. So this is what we say at Minet. Retirement planning is not something we do once. And I think in most of our conversations, we've always told you, retirement is really a journey. At Minet, our mission is to work with you through that journey by providing you with relevant knowledge and practical tools that empower you to take control of your long-term financial well-being. I think in every other conversation, when we talk about retirement planning, we talk about financial wellness, and today really is part of the same discussion that we are talking about, since we are talking about really retirement being a journey. I would like to highlight that today's session is one of those several engagements that we plan to host throughout this year. These sessions are basically designed to help you to understand your benefits in a better manner, strengthen your financial planning, and prepare you confidently in terms of your retirement. And therefore, we encourage you to keep an eye out for the upcoming events so that you can continue benefiting from the insights that will be shared today and in many other sessions to come. We are privileged today to have our Lawrence Okumu, who is our Associate General Manager within the Pension Division, who will take us through the discussions of today. I just want to thank you again for joining us, and we trust that you'll find the session impactful and enriching. I know during our several engagements, whether during the quarterly meetings, during the member AGMs, or even member sensitizations, there are so many questions that do come around. So what we've resolved as Minet, like I've earlier said, is that we have continuous sessions throughout the year and many years to come, so that because we keep saying retirement is not just about today, taking a decision today. It's a long-term conversation, and therefore it's about the journey that we want to walk with you. So kindly pay attention to our Lawrence as he takes us through today's session. I just want to thank you again for joining us, and let's encourage those of our friends who are yet to join to just do it. Kindly, I just want to ask that you be attentive. Mary, back to you, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for your insightful opening remarks. We now move directly to the main agenda. I want to welcome Mr. Lawrence Okumu. Lawrence is our Associate General Manager in Pension Division, and he'll be able to give us this section. Over to you, Lawrence.
Separate one, helping the BD team on how they can use the social media platforms to solicit for business, like to market themselves and not a business, position themselves as profitable. Now, and kama kitu tunaweza fanya na.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you, Daniel, for the introduction. My name is Lawrence, and it is a pleasure to lead the conversations today. As Mainga mentioned, this is part of the series that we'll be doing across the year, and we are calling it the Minet Insight Hub.
Concerning CIM.
So conversations today will be about really mapping your journey as the topic you may have gone through. But the first thing we want to do is just get to know us a little better. Then we'll proceed to set the scene. We'll then discuss your journey and conclude the conversations with some few key takeaways. So who we are. As Minet, we are a trusted Pan-African advisor that meets the uncertainties of tomorrow by delivering the risk and human capital solutions today. Our vision is really to secure Africa's future. You will see we do have a rich history, and part of the conversations that you will have with us will benefit from this 77 years history that we had. We started some of the operations somewhere in 1949, where we were Minet, became part of the Aeon team in 1998, and from 2017 we're still Minet. Our value system is that of the heart, and by heart this is what we mean. For honesty, our promise to you is that we'll be transparent, we'll be reliable, we'll be very honest in our relationships, and of course, we do expect this in return. Based on our rich history and the various countries that we operate in, but also the unique understanding that we do have of the local market here, we are happy and we do continue to provide the superior and local relevant solutions. We remain agile, flexible, and very efficient in terms of the changing needs that you will have as our clients, even for our partners and colleagues, and even suppliers that we work with across the entire value chain. We recognize and appreciate and also embrace diversity and also the values that every different person brings, and that speaks to the respect pillar. And teamwork for us is the name of the game. In terms of our services, wherever you're meeting or talking to someone at Minet, it's either from the risk advisory side, could be from the claims advocacy. It could also be from the consulting and exchange solutions that we also provide. Wherever you are in this Africa, you can find a Minet office or a correspondent. We are here in Nairobi, Kenya, and different stations also in Kenya. We're also in Lesotho, Malawi, Namibia, Uganda, Zambia, Botswana, just but to mention a few. You may be wondering, what is this Minet Insight Hub? We think of it as a training series that is designed to help you be in the financial seat, to be in the driving seat of your financial decisions, so that then when you're engaging in your financial affairs, you are pretty much more aware, you are more intentional, because then your money starts to follow the decisions that you have made. So the training series will be there to guide you, to support you, to help you with the conversation. So what you can expect is, one, the periodic seminars has been mentioned. You'd also expect the practical insights and tools that we'll share some with you today and others across the year. Again, there will also be several opportunities to engage and ask questions. The conversations do not just end with the webinars. We are talking about retirement today and aspects of retirement, to be precise. And maybe the first question, and I want to pause just, there will be no other meetings on our calendar. To be, what would a good day look like for you? Again, when you think about it, are there other responsibilities that still remain? Because retirement doesn't mean all the responsibilities that you carried while you were gainfully employed, for instance, ends with that retirement date. So are there any other responsibilities that still remain? Again, what is the lifestyle that you'd want to live or maintain, for that matter? So the concept of retirement, as you think about it and the questions that we are asking here, is not just about money. We are inviting you to think about what you will do with the more time that you will have, because that's a promise of retirement. What about the greater freedom to choose where to live and how to live? For some of us, it may be an opportunity to focus on the relationships that we have, maybe live a better life in terms of the health decisions that we make, or probably more meaningful life in terms of the purpose that we may want to achieve. So whatever it may be, for you who's listening to us this morning, money simply makes these things possible. So the conversation and the invitation is to think about that person who you will be at the age of retirement. I know some will want to exit early at 50, others at 55, others maybe at 60 or even later. But what is that going to look like when all these things on our schedule, because of whatever we do today in terms of employment, drops off? So all that we want to do, we say it is the most important thing, and money only makes it possible. It will also be right that we look at some of the people who've retired. And this is a study that was done by the Retirement Benefits Authority, and it spanned across 5 years. We basically went around and asking retirees, the people who are retired, how satisfied are you with your retirement life? 40% said they were very satisfied. They were happy to be in retirement. 52% were moderately satisfied. Of course, there's about 8% who are not satisfied. Again, the study went ahead and asked them, if you were to speak to your younger self, you who's retired now, if you were speaking to your younger self, what would you do differently? I like to think of that question as, yes, Lawrence, what would you tell your younger self? And maybe I would be asking myself these questions when I'm 60. And these conversations that we're having now is to help you have these conversations at an earlier date, not just when you're 60. But for those who have crossed the 60 mark, this is what they were saying. If they were speaking to their younger selves, they will be saying, one, please participate more in the scheme events. There's a lot of useful information that is shared there. That was about 7.4%. Maybe the invitation to you is, please, and we are happy you're able to join us on this webinar, and please, we look forward to having you in the next ones. But also for your scheme-specific events, please join them, because 7% of the people are telling us they wish they participated there. Another 9.63% are saying they should have contributed towards a post-retirement medical cover or fund. Again, it's an invitation for you and me who are still in active service to think about the medical needs that we'll have in retirement. I know for majority of us today, our employer may be gracious enough to provide us with a medical cover. But what happens when we get to the 60th birthday when we have to leave employment? We return that cover, or the cover ceases, and then now you must take care of your medical needs, and maybe for dependents as well. So about 10% was saying they should have contributed towards a post-retirement medical fund. Another 12.5 were basically saying they should have planned for retirement early. Because by the very nature of how we do things, most of us plan or leave our plans until the very last minute. It's another invitation for us. And the Insight Hub is to spur these conversations around how can we be better prepared for our financial obligations as we grow older. Plan early is what they were saying. Others, of course, spoke about they should have started aside hustles, support them. Because again, that same study was telling us that for most people, they were replacing much, much less. And that's going to be part of the conversation we're having today. But the majority of the people there, about 33.49%, were saying, let's increase the savings. Whatever we are saving is not enough. That is what they were saying. But if they were speaking to their younger self, if Lawrence, say, was 65 and was speaking to the 40-year-old, 30-year-old Lawrence, he'll be saying, please, Lawrence, save a little more. That is what the retired people were saying. Again, the study went and said, well, you're on reduced income. But the question was, do you still have dependents? Do you still have dependents? Do you still have dependents? And 83.2% basically said, yes, we do have dependents. And if you looked at these dependents, a good number of them were still their biological children. Yes, the times have changed such that then we are taking care of our children, and we are taking care of our children's children. While traditionally what was expected of us was that we take care of our children, then at some stage they will also start taking care of us. But the reality now is such that, and based on that study, that majority of the people are still taking care of their children and also their children's children. And that's why this is a very important conversation to have today. Again, the study asked the question, for you members of a pension scheme and a provident fund, and this is the difference between pension and provident. Provident scheme is a scheme where all your shilling amount, so you are saving X amount, the employer is saving Y amount, so X plus Y plus the return across the years of membership is all lumped together and paid to you in a single check. That is what I'm going to call a provident fund in this conversation. For a pension scheme, it works differently. The computation is about your contributions, the employer's contributions, the return across the years, or whatever you are entitled to as at the date of exit. Let me call that 60 years. Whatever you're entitled to at the age of 60, if that is your date of exit, you can only be paid a third as cash lump sum. The balance is used to buy an annuity. An annuity, think of it as a series of monthly payments that one receives in retirement. So for that conversation, I'll call it a pension. So again, they looked at it and said, is there any differences between members of a pension scheme and those of a provident fund in terms of adequacy of the savings? The savings, the monies they were putting, were there any differences? And the answer is yes. On the provident fund, it's about 24%. They said it was adequate. If you look at the pension fund, it was about 42%. What was adequate? So again, as we go into this conversation, I know we are many of us and the uniqueness in terms of our schemes. It's only important that we get to see the nuances as well. So if you're in a provident fund, majority of the people in the provident fund did not have enough. And maybe sometimes the study should have gone further to just ask the question whether these people who had probably enough on the provident fund, what was the one skill that enabled them to continue having or making that money last? Because majority of us struggle with that. Again, given that background, it will be right to ask ourselves, What is our journey? We've seen the people who've gone ahead, who are retired. A good number are happy. A good number are not happy, are not satisfied with their retirement life. They're telling us some decisions they should have made earlier. So the question is, for us who still have time, maybe you're closer to retirement. Maybe you have 30 years. Maybe you're somewhere in between. The question is, on that journey, can we map it together based on what we see, our experiences as Minet will share, and also based on the people who are retired through the studies that I've just given you a background. So in this journey, we want to think of it in terms of 4 parts. So I will call this mapping your retirement journey. On the first part is to be able to think about that destination. You'll remember we defined retirement and we said, yes, money is really important to be able to achieve these things. But first, we think about a destination. What is retirement going to look like for you? What lifestyle would you like to lead at that stage? When you're 60, when you're 70, when you're 80? What hobbies do you intend to take? What is it that you have today that you want to continue to do when you go into retirement? Or what are some of the things that you probably don't have time to do today that you want to take up in retirement? What about the financial obligations that you may still have? Where do you want to land that? So we're thinking about a destination, where we want to get to. So we are mapping it. This will be different for all of us. And you, across this presentation, you will meet different travelers. But just remember, you as a traveler, just like I am, we need to have a destination in mind. What should that look like? After we have done that, the next step, and in this sequence, is to estimate the cost of that lifestyle that we want to sustain. I don't know if we still want to live by rivers anymore. I used to say I would want to retire by a river. I don't know whether that's the case now. But whatever it is, if you want to retire by a river, the question is, what is the cost of that? So you should be thinking numbers here. You painted a picture, we are putting numbers to it as the second thing. The third one is, where are you today? What's your current location? We've determined where you need to go. We have an idea of what that cost is going to look like. Then the next probable thing is to see where we are today. So the invitation is to say, how much do we have? What kind of habit do we have today? Are we tracking our costs towards our retirement date? Maybe for some, and I pray for most of us, we're going to be online in tandem with our plans, but the numbers are telling me majority are not. And that's why these conversations, we must have them regularly. Review your current location. Look at your savings, whatever it is you may have. Then adjust the route. If you're going to Mombasa, but you find yourself in a bus headed to Kisumu, there is no need of fighting. You are light. You adjust your route. You change that bus. And this conversation is to be able to bring light into what you really need to do so that then we get you back to that route that you wanted to go to. Now, allow me to introduce a concept here. We're going to call it an income replacement ratio. So an income replacement ratio is the rate at which your post-retirement income replaces your pre-retirement income. So in the month of March, if this is my last month in employment and my salary is 100,000 shillings, and whatever I have saved in the Minet scheme from next month when I am retired can only pay me 70,000 shillings for the rest of my life, then my replacement ratio, which is my post-retirement income of 70,000, is 70% of the 100,000 that I earned before. Of course, the inherent assumption is that for most of us who are employed today, because we already give an employer 8 to 5 and maybe even longer, Monday to Friday, and for some of us even Saturday, maybe circumstances may be different, we even do Sunday. We may not have even much left to do outside the 8 to 5 jobs that we have today. So the assumption that is inherent here is that the lifestyle you want to lead, or even the one you live today, is largely supported by your income today, and chances are it's from your salary. But I know for a good number as well, it's different. Some of us do side hustle. Some of us are engaged in 1 or 2 gig jobs, and then we get extra money here and there. And I know our unique circumstances are different. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to restrict it to their salary, and I'm going to use that as a basis for the conversation. So if my salary is 100,000 this month, for next month, if I'm only able to replace 70,000, and assuming next month I'm now in retirement, then you can say I've replaced 70%. Now the question is, what is the ideal income replacement ratio for me and you, who most of us are actually relying on salary? International Labour Organization tells us any range between 60 and 80 should be sufficient. And sufficiency here is this. They're looking at it and saying, you want to be able to continue in the same house, living in the same house like you did before. They're looking at it and saying, if your kids are still in school, then they should be able to go to that school. They're looking at it and saying, if you live in a given neighborhood, you have some social habits that you can continue to keep up with them. So the key essence is continuation of life, so that then we don't see you having to readjust because of financial needs. Yes, it's good to scale down if you want to. It's good to live a simpler life if you want to in retirement. And I've seen so many people actually sell those big houses that some of us have here, and then go to a smaller house and all those things. Yes, circumstances are different. But when we're looking at 60 and 80, the assumption here is that we want to continue to live the lives that we led when we were still gainfully employed. But even with that assumptions, with that guide of 60 to 80, the other inherent assumptions, one of them is that your reduced household expenditure, you'll be on reduced household expenditure. That means you don't have expenses such as, a daily commute to work. Most of your people shall have gone, out of your house, if it is your children. The assumption is that, the things that you keep up with today will not be of much interest to you when you're retired. You will be basically saying all this interest may not be as of much need to you at that particular time. Now, if you look at where we started in terms of the numbers, about 84%, 83 point something percent of the retirees today in Kenya are basically telling us that they still have dependents. And here, 60 to 80 is a good guide on the assumption that you have reduced household expenditure. Question we must be asking ourselves is this: yes, for some of us, maybe our children may be done with school, or maybe maybe the last one may have been in high school, maybe campus, basically on the way out. But a good number, we may have children who are still younger. So the question is 60 to 80% a good guide for you in that case? So think about yourself, your circumstances, the financial needs, the obligations that you may still have in retirement. And if these assumptions are true for you, then 60 to 80% may be a good guide. If they're not, then you must be thinking about a higher replacement ratio. And I want to be able to explain this through our travelers. So meet 2 travelers. One is Aisha. And I must tell you, Aisha is my favorite. She's 30 years old. Currently, her salary is 120,000. She projects that between 30 and 60 years, when she intends to retire, her salary will grow at about 5% per annum. She contributes 10% to her pension scheme. So with that projection of 5% from the 120 across 30 years, she basically projects that her final salary is going to be 518,634. Aisha's retirement goal, when she sat on the first puzzle piece, she looked at it and said she wanted financial independence. She loves to travel. She'd want to go to Prague. She'd want to go to Cape Town. She'd want to go to some of these beautiful places we all want to go to. But she's also very passionate about family, so she wants to continue to support her family. When she sits down, looks at all the things that she needs, that she wants for herself, the estimated cost of that lifestyle will be about 70% of her final salary, not the 60 to 80, but for Aisha now it's 70%. When you do 70% of that projected final salary of 518, Aisha basically can do with about 363,000 a month. Now, the question is, when she gets to 60 years, when she starts to do all these things, the travel, the ability to support the family, the financial independence, how much does Aisha need? She needs about 36.3 million Kenyan shillings. Of course, we are assuming a projected return of about 10%. But because Aisha is smart, she starts early, she's contributing at 10%, she's not having occasional withdrawals. She's projected at that rate of 10% per annum to have about 37.8 million shillings. Her needs until her death are projected to be 36 as long as she gets to 60 years at 36.3 million shillings in her bag. But based on what she's doing today, the projection is that she's going to be at 37.8 million shillings. And maybe you should be asking, or you could be asking yourself, should Aisha reduce her contributions? Should she take some holiday today? Again, let's meet another traveler. This is my friend James. James is 45 years on a better salary than Aisha, actually 250,000. James also projects that that salary will grow at 5%. So that means in another 15 years, James will be at 519,000 per month. James contributes 7.5. You will remember Aisha was contributing 10%. James is contributing 7.5. What does James need? When he sits down, thinks about the person he wants to be at 60, he wants one to maintain the current lifestyle. He wants to be able to support his children and even grandchildren. Time and resources for hobbies. That's what James wants. So the estimated cost of lifestyle for James is 80% of the final salary. Remember, the final salary we already defined as 519. So what is 60%? What is 80% of that? It's about 415,000 per month. The lump sum equivalent of that, which basically means in another 15 years, James needs 41.578 million shillings. James has a current saving of about 6.9. So if you add the 6.9, assuming a return of 10%, and also the contribution that James continues to make, which is the 7.5 of the salary that continues to grow 5% from the 250 until at the age of 45 until he gets to 60, James is projected to be at about 38. But because of the needs that James has, the lump sum that is required to get with at the age of 60 is 41.5. So basically, James has a shortfall. Aisha, we were even debating, can she go to Cape Town now? Can she go to Prague now? Or do we wait, or do we reduce contribution? What do we do? But for James, we are talking about a shortfall. And look at the amount, 3.25. But James is also smart. James knows that shortfall today. So it means there's room to be able to adjust that. So let's just play with the numbers. Just look at them, both James and Aisha, the two travelers. If Aisha were to increase her contributions by 2%, an additional 2%, the final lump sum that she will have at the age of 60 becomes 45.36 million Kenyan shillings. If she were to reduce her contributions by 2%, the final lump sum will be about 30 million. Look at the gap of 4 million. It gives a difference of about 15 million shillings for Aisha. That is for Aisha, for every 1% increase in her contribution from the age of 30 to 60, she's projected to have an additional 3.781 million shillings. So at 8%, she has 30.25. At 10%, she has 37.81. At 12%, Aisha has 45.37 million. Oh, maybe be Aisha. Let's look at James. If he were to increase his contributions by 2%, the final lump sum will be 40 million. If you were to increase it by 2.5, an additional 0.5, James gets to 41.45. If we were to reduce his contribution by 2%, his final lump sum will be 35.8. So a difference of about 4% contribution rate for James will yield a difference of 5 million. So at 5.5, James is at 35.81 million. 7.5 contribution is at 38.33 million. 9.5 is at 40.85 million. At 10%, James is at 41.48 million. That is, for James, the 1% increase will yield an additional amount of 1.259 million shillings. So when you look at James and Aisha and you're wondering, are you James, are you Aisha? Can James be Aisha? Can Aisha be James? The answer is yes. And yes, and we are all those travelers. For some of us, we are James. For some of us, we are Aisha. And maybe for some of us, we are both, depending on whatever stages of life we find ourselves. But this is the message here. And we've demonstrated it using Aisha and James. Time is your ally. Time. You start early, better for you. Time. Aisha has 30 years to retirement. James, just like myself, has 15 years. So the earlier you start, the greater the compounding effect. That's why we say the eighth wonder of the one is compounding effect. Look at the contribution rates. If I were in a sitting room with you, I'll probably be asking you what was the contribution rate. But I'll tell you, James is contributing 7.5. Aisha is contributing 10%. So Aisha is contributing a higher percentage as compared to James. She's not only doing many years, she has more time, the benefit of time, but again, she's also contributing a higher contribution rate. There's no problem with that. Look at the retirement goals as well. James needs more to support his lifestyle. Aisha has managed to keep it simple, but James has needs that are expounded. So the lifestyle you want to lead in retirement determines how much you need to save. In a nutshell, the key drivers to your financial outcome are going to be the following. Your retirement goals, the picture we painted. It's an open canvas. We all have different dreams, but those dreams that we want to achieve will determine how much we need to put aside. So your retirement goals are really important. As we think about it, let's think about the financial obligations that they do carry. The second item is that you start early. I mean, there's a Chinese proverb that we should have planted a tree yesterday, but the next best time to plant a tree is today. So it's never too late in the present. If you didn't start yesterday, that ship sailed. We're looking at it today. So the invitation is to start early. Don't say I am not 30 years anymore. You could be 45, you could be 50, could be 55. That's the earliest you'll ever be going forward. So start early. Then also look at your contribution levels. Are you James at 7.5? Or are you Aisha at 10? The higher, the better. If Aisha were to reduce the contributions, again, you'd see a different outcome. If James were to increase the contributions, again, we've seen a different outcome. So your contribution levels. And again, investment returns are really important. There's something called serenity prayer. And serenity prayer basically tells you to know a few things, the things you can control and the ones that you can't. And that's where the wisdom lies. And the grace, you pray for the grace to accept the things that you can't change. So in this right corner, we have the 3 points there, the 4 points there actually. So for retirement goals are things within your control. You can think and dream and paint it wherever you want. That's fine. You can start early. Today is the earliest. That's fine, within your control. Your contribution levels, that's fine. That's within your control. And that's the wisdom in this conversation, that all those 3 things, once you know the differences of what you can and what you can't, and now I'm going to ask you to accept some of the things that we may not, which is the investment returns. But then we ensure that your monies are placed in where you get very competitive returns that can support your retirement goals. So if you were to do the math, what would you come to? Think about yourself. And maybe this is a question you should think about. Would your future self really thank you for the decisions that you're going to make today from this conversation and discussion that we're having today? Is it going to be something you're grateful for? If the answer is yes, this is what I would suggest you do next. As a step one, think about what you would look like in retirement, what you want to achieve, what would color your life. What are some of those things? The second thing is determine the cost of that desired lifestyle. The third one, assess your current position. We do have projection tools that can support you with that conversation. You also have your member benefit statement. You can also access the one that is at NSSF. I'm sure you have other investments, and today's conversation was really limited to one aspect of your lives in terms of what you have. We restricted it to the pension, but we also appreciate you could be having money sitting elsewhere. But assess your current position, whatever it may be, then adjust accordingly. So my invitation is to do this on a monthly basis. Do it on a quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, but also important to review when there are major changes. For some of you, salary adjustments are done every year. Maybe this is the month. Maybe you get promoted. Some of you are changing jobs. Things happen in our lives, whatever they are. Please factor in the financial aspect of it. And remember, your goals and circumstances may change, so we will continue to review. The intention, be very mindful of your future needs. Again, start early. Today is early. It makes a difference. Aisha has told us that through her stories. But also remember to periodically review your plan. I'd want to stop there, and maybe I will anticipate some of the questions that you may have. We will answer them. But the question maybe is, how do you get ready after that? We are happy to help you with an assessment that we are calling a retirement ready assessment. We just want to see if you're 3, 5, 10 years to retirement, engage us separately so that then we can have a conversation of how ready you are. Think of it as a retirement readiness assessment. It will help you to know what you need to do, whether you're the traveler on the right track or you need to get off that train and pick another one. Thank you, and I'll take it back to Mary for the next part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. The plate is really full. I'm not so sure where we are at, whether you're Aisha, James. Quite thought-provoking questions that were raised there, practical steps that were given for us to self-analyze and determine where we are at. I want to take us to the next section, which is question and answer. Which area would you like him to dig more into? Or what questions would you like elaborated? The chat is open for the members to give in their questions and answers. For those who are not able to chat, you're also free to raise your hand and we'll be able to unmute you. Members, the floor is yours. Kindly, let's have the questions. I'm looking at the chats. I'm not finding so many questions except whether the meeting started. So let's have the questions. The chat has been turned on, or raise the hands so that we can be able to interact, engage for a fruitful session. Miriam Kanyi, hello. Ernest Lele, who has his hand raised up.
Thank you. Good morning. And I'm Ernest Lele from Kenya Seed Company. Hello. I don't know whether I'm audible enough.
We can hear Ernest. Proceed.
Yeah, the discussion and the training is very, very impressive. And I would just want to ask 2 questions. One is in regards to the post-retirement medical that one can easily save and enjoy after retirement. I would want to ask that you elaborate on that. How can we do it, and how is the benefit coming after the retirement? Is it going to cover all the years after retirement until death, and then again, is it going to cover the dependents? That is my first question. Number two is I don't know whether I call it a question or a concern in terms of the interest and as a member of the Minet pension scheme. I would want to say that although this one was a bit covered in during our meeting in our company, in terms of how we are getting the interests on our savings, on our pension, it looks like it's a bit low. With the fact of now the NS, you compare with the current now NSSF that is coming in. I know previously NSSF was not coming out clearly. It never had anything that is coming as a much interest to the saver. But now what we see in NSSF is bringing a lot of interest in terms of what what you save as a employee. Now, with that in mind, what is Minet doing in terms of increasing the interest so that at least we can enjoy more interest in terms of Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernest. Question is well captured. I'd like to ask members that we take all the questions down and then so that the facilitator can answer all the questions together. And I want member has asked kindly give more information about the post-medical cover, which ties to the question that has already been asked. What is your last year's declared interest? That's also a question that has been taken. How do you plan for excessive time after retirement? Those are the questions that have come so far. How do you plan for excessive time after retirement? What is the last year's declared interest? More information about medical cover. The members would like to have more information on that. Then also an interesting question on NSSF conversation. NSSF has brought a lot of interest around member savings and the way they are taking their benefit. The question is, what is Minet's role in increasing the interest or the members' interest toward the pension saving? Over to you, Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Mary, and I think it was Lele. Very good questions, I must say. I will start with post-retirement medical. I know I briefly mentioned it. We'll be having separate conversation, I think in the month, in probably 2 or 3 months. I'm not looking at a document now. I will be going into the details of what a post-retirement medical fund is and how it works. But in a nutshell, this is what happens. Today, you're gainfully employed. So all you can do while the employer is providing you with a medical cover is to put some money aside for that time when that cover from the employer ceases. So the focus today, when you have a cover, is to save money such that then this money continues to be invested. There's accounting, you're getting statement during the AGM as well as reporting on it. But the key thing is that you're building a nest. Now, what do you do with this nest when you get to the age of 60? There are different options. The first option is to go seek medical help, and then your scheme would reimburse for the expenditure. So you go, you spend say 100,000 shillings, then you come back, and then the scheme does what? The scheme pays. If there's an emergency where money should be paid up front, the scheme pays based on whatever you have within your retirement pot. Then reconciliations are done. The key thing is money remains invested while meeting your medical needs. Does it cater for your departments? Yes. So it depends on how you want to utilize your fund. I could come with my spouse. If I do, then it means the medical cover covers my spouse. If I don't, then it means it does not. You decide because you craft the details of the cover that you want, subject to the shilling amount that you have in your port. Again, there will be options where what we call medical annuity. So we look at it and say, what does it mean for this level of cover for you as an individual? And maybe the level of cover, I mean, say 100,000 outpatient, inpatient, say of 1 million, dental and optical of say 15,000 a piece. Then we look at it and we say, how much does this cost to have that medical cover? So if you had a pool, say of 5 million shillings, and that cover is about 200, and by the way, those covers are very expensive. Today, for M+1, which is for the principal member and the spouse, and you're looking for the benefits that I've mentioned, you actually paying in excess of 200,000 per year. So say from a 5 million shilling spot, which continues to be invested, you draw down the money towards the purchasing that medical cover. So there will be different unique circumstances, but we believe all those circumstances will benefit all of us on this call. It's a question of what level of cover, what would your preferred mode of access? Do you have enough finances to be able to do that? So when we'll be having that webinar to discuss the medical details, we'll be coming to you and actually even showing you the cost of medical cover, what we project them to be, what you can do today just to make sure that you're in line, such that when you get to the age of 60, if that is your retirement date, then you're not worried about your medical needs because you have created a pool which will support your medical needs in retirement. In a nutshell, it tries to mirror what you have today, what the employer has provided for you. Think of it this way. Just the way you're saving to replace the salary using a pension, you are presently being invited, if you're not, to save towards replacement of that medical cover that you have. Some of us may have a different arrangement that does not mean a medical cover. Some of us, it is reimbursements. So such are the nuances that we go into. So look forward to that webinar, and I'm inviting all of you because there will be very insightful conversations. We walk with you. We hold your hand. We bring that 77 years of expertise so that then you are not shooting in the dark. We are holding your hand through that conversation. There was also another question about low returns. And I know NSSF, I think it must have been somewhere early this year, there was a good return, I must say, probably the highest they've had in their history. And for some of you remember, NSSF as an institution started somewhere in 1965. Started initially as a department from the Ministry of Labor. So we are happy to see the progress they have made. We are happy for the retirees who are, going to get their money from NSSF because of the good returns that they will have. And your question was a timely one. What is Minet doing to ensure that we are making better returns? For me to answer that question, I'll tell you this. In every scheme, there are three players. The first one is someone we're calling a custodian. This is the person who keeps the money. There's someone we are calling an investment manager. This is the guy who issues the buy and sell instructions. We call that person the investment manager. So for instance, they will tell the guy with the money who we call the custodian, buy 1,000 Safaricom shares. They will tell the custodian, sell 1,000 Safaricom shares and get all that money and everything and collect it because they're the ones who are licensed to keep. The people who are licensed to keep, we're calling them custodians. The buy and sell instruction, who issue that, we are calling them investment managers because those are the investment decisions. Our role is on two fronts. One, to be able to pay you because you keep your record straight, to be able to prepare you by letting you know, some of the decisions you need to take today by working with you, to be able to point out and guide the trustees through the legal areas and ways in which they can get even better returns. We do have comments about return. So typically what you see at the meetings that we do with the trustees is that we do an investment comparison. We go in those meetings and tell trustees that, yes, for this, our scheme here, the return is X amount. This is what the market is giving. This is how we see the drivers of that return being. Why can't our scheme do this? So we help by asking the questions that sometimes may be uncomfortable, but are geared towards making our schemes better, because then we believe our presence there must be felt with you as a member, courtesy of that member benefit slip. So we are involved in those conversations. We do not directly invest the funds, but we support. And the support here is market comparison, insights, and we do have an actuary who sits with us, who looks at all this performance and gives a very beautiful report that helps the trustees make better decisions going forward. So yes, you will get better returns. And maybe just a caution here. Returns for the older person that we are all becoming should never be seen in 1 year in isolation. You want to look at it and say, what about the 3 years? What about the 10 years? What has it been? 1 year, yes, I'm saying you can be concerned, but I want you to be able to make a decision after you look at it in 3, 4, 5 years, because then you have better insight, better information, so that then you can make the right decisions. There's another question of how can you be better prepared for the excess time in retirement? And I liked that one. In fact, one of the things I was going to ask is, how then do you even transition into retirement? So please, watch us. That's going to be part of the coming conversations that we're going to have, because we have a few practical tips. We take you through appreciate the uniqueness of who you are today. We then proceed and have a conversation of what would be the best given your circumstances. We share with you experiences of how people feel their lives and what they find meaningful. And then we make suggestions that are unique, bringing it back to the issue of retirement preparedness, because that question will not just be a money question. It's going to be a 24-hour built with an hour-by-hour update, so that then we give you insights from what we are seeing. I may not be able to go in it in detail, but we'll be sharing with you a lot more insights on what people should do, what you can consider. But we also want to hear from you. What makes you unique? You're different. Whatever you feel your life today is different. So we don't want to push you into a house view, but we want to be able to discuss with you in terms of our experiences, what people are saying, what we would suggest, depending on your unique circumstances. I'd want to invite Mary back on the floor and maybe see if we have any questions. I know my colleagues are on chat, so if you have a follow-up questions, please feel free. Just put them down on the chat and you get a response.
Sure. We have a few more. There's a member who is asking, is interest earned on a monthly or on a compounding interest? Is interest earned on monthly or on compounding interest? That's a member who'd want to know. How does one transfer benefits from one scheme to another in case where someone changes their employment? A member is thankful for presentation and requesting that we can share the computation. I believe the tool for computation, I believe this is on replacement ratio, if we can share that. There's a member who says, I tried additional voluntary contributions for some times, but got disappointed by double taxation and stopped. Do you have a solution to evade double taxation on this aspect? Kindly, Lawrence, clarify whether there's double taxation and how a member can evade that. A member is thankful for the webinar and also says, could you shed more light on savings for medical in terms of access? If I have been saving in the post-retirement medical fund, can I access the fund before retirement? Should I want to seek medical attention at one point? Basically, he wants to know whether he can access if there's a medical need while still in employment. When an employee transfers his or her pension from one scheme to another, is taken to be employer AVC or employee VC. Okay, or rather, I think the member wants to clarity on whether this is taken as a member AVC or an employer AVC when you transfer your benefit to another. Basically, that's what we have at the moment, which should keep us going. Our members, please be free to include more questions. We still have 5 more minutes for you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members, for that round of questions. I think I'll start with the very last one. And the question was, when you transfer your contributions or your whatever you have in your scheme, and maybe just for a bit of context. So schemes will typically tell you contribute a minimum. So the minimum may be 7%. So they'll tell you employer contribution rate is 7%, employee contribution, let me say it's 7%. But that is the floor, not the ceiling. That's the minimum that you can contribute. After these conversations, we want to be able to see you contribute more. So if you're contributing over and above the 7%, which was the minimum, whatever is additional, we're going to call additional because they are voluntary, but they also form part of your contributions. Additional voluntary contributions. You don't lose them, they're yours. They're voluntary because you're not mandated to do them, but they're additional because they are over and above. Now, every administrator is mandated to keep records in a certain manner. This is to mean that in the records of the administrator, what you want to see is, say, Lawrence has contributed 1,000 shillings, the employer has contributed 2,000 shillings, and there's an AVC of 500 from Lawrence. That is employee AVC. All those columns should be very separate so that then you can track and see what your contributions are. Now, I know at the point of transfer from one scheme to another, many things happen. Remember the person we call the custodian who holds the money. They will transfer the bulk from scheme 1 to scheme B. Then the previous administrator or administrator from scheme A should also send what we call a schedule or a worksheet, the one that shows, say, the 5 million shillings, or let me even use an example of 1 million, the 1 million shillings, the schedule that shows the breakdown of that 1 million, what constitutes the employer, what constitutes the employee, what constitutes the AVC. So that administrator and the administrator will keep those records in that manner. If you have an issue there, feel free, leave us an email. We'll be able to support you if it's a scheme that we are responsible for here. Again, there's a question about what is the process of the transfer from one scheme to another or from one employer to another. The first process in every movement in these discussions, I want you to think of it as this. You first go to the people who are holding your records. So you'd first go to your employer or your administrator if you know them and say, please give me your form. You can even say, nipatie ile form ya transfer, right? You just have to get to where your money was, the people who have the records, the ones who are responsible for holding it. So you can get a hold of a trustee, you can go back to the previous employer, or you can go to the scheme. I know for different circumstances, we may not be able to meet all these people, but you go out to either or and say, I would want to transfer my benefits from company A or scheme A to scheme B. As you do that, remember to have the details of the scheme that you're transferring into. If you transfer into that, if you're transferring into a scheme B, please make sure that you have the details of scheme B. Okay? Hopefully that answers that, the process of the transfer. Will we be able to share some of these computations and whatever we have done? Yes, part of the retirement preparedness means we're even inviting you. Please come. We make really good coffee here. Come for a cup of coffee. Let's have a conversation around whether your retirement plan is in check, whether you're ready, and what more can you do for that older person that we've talked about. The first question was on interest. Does it compound monthly, annually? Is it simple interest? No, the interest calculations are done at the end of every year. So it's an annual compounding, right? And the beauty about that is that you had your chicken that laid an egg. In the next year, you still have your chicken that continues to lay an egg, but now your first egg is another chicken that has laid an egg. But then you also add up with your contribution. And that is why you see Aisha and James having fuller baskets, because the compounding is done on an annual basis.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is so encouraging that members have kept asking questions, but we have to bring it to an end at some point. So this is the last round of questions that we will take. I will start from members on YouTube and the questions that have been raised.
You could have addressed the issue of double taxation.
What is the difference between annuity and drawdown? Please clarify annuity and drawdown. How can one contact us? We'll give our contacts. What is the impact of the new finance bill on our pension fund at the point of retirement? If there are changes in the finance bill, how does that impact members? Can I have a personal contribution through direct debits? not passing through the employer, I believe. Can he contribute directly? Okay. We have additional questions here. Let's say one has a salary of 250,000 and has worked for 25 years. What are they entitled in terms of benefits? There's a request to share the notes. Kindly explain how pension and provident fund works. Please elaborate, that's the request. We've requested or we've tackled the interest or the question of interest being earned. Is it compound or monthly? That has already been taken care of. Can somebody get personal consultations on wealth planning through Minet? What is the impact of the new financial? Okay, that one has already been asked. Somebody has said, very nice presentation. Which are these three projections tools that can be used for retirement cost adjustments? What is that true? There seems to be a need for more medical cover presentation. Those are the new questions. The others I see we've already tackled. Regarding the matrix of contribution, is it worth straining your life conditions to bare minimum now in order to save more? Do you stop living for tomorrow? That's what this member wants to know. Is it worth straining for you to live tomorrow with aim of living better in retirement? I guess he was short of asking when you're old and less energy. What is your take on NSSF rate of 17.5? Is it true? Take those ones first. Thank you, members, for the streaming questions, but I guess we have to bring that session to an end after these have been taken so that we can keep the time and the promise on the timelines that we had given.
Thank you very much, Mary, and members, really good questions. Do you stop living for tomorrow? That's a very good question. So we believe in a very holistic way of doing financial planning. We don't believe that right now you should sacrifice your life for a better future that you may not see. But also we know we live every day, and we know that future is calling on us to make some specific decisions today. So our conversations with you will always be balanced. It takes into consideration the realities of today, and that is where we will start. And then we will end at a place where we are planning about tomorrow. For instance, I know you've had many people talk about a budget, but it is going to be part of the conversations that we have. We have personal aspirations as individuals. What are those? We have, so for some of us, we'll even be thinking about wealth planning and transfer. How do we transfer whatever it is that we have to the generations to come? So our approach is very holistic. So my invitation to you is, and to answer the second question, can someone get a personal consultation? We'll be happy to support you. Please, we sit on the third floor, Minet House, Processional Way. Come and ask for the team there. We'll be able to guide you, and you will see one of the conversations that we have is not just about retirement. There's a lot more that we do. The daily living today cannot be at the expense of a future tomorrow, but we may ask you to make some decisions today that may mean you sacrifice one or two, but there are things that are worth sacrificing. They are not things that you can't do without. So it's going to be a balanced conversation. Invite us, come to us, let us engage so that then we can help you move towards that future that you'd want to. There was also a question of what is the difference between provident and pension? Now, in terms of the contributions, it is the same. They work the same. And of course, I am assuming we both understand pension and provident. So while we're gainfully employed, we contribute money towards the older persons that we all become. You contribute as an employee, the employer contributes. All these monies are commingled until your date of exit. At the point of exit is where there's a difference. And not even in taxation. You have 9. So assuming you have 9 at 60 years, a pension will tell you a maximum of a third. So 1/3 of the 9 million shillings is what you can take as a cash lump sum. The balance, after you have been paid the 3 million, is 6 million. 6 million is what now you're paid on a monthly basis. So that structure happens in a pension scheme. In a provident fund, when you have that 9 million shillings at the point of exit, you're paid 9 million shillings. And maybe the question for you and me who are in provident funds is this: what is your relationship with money? Is it one that can make you last or not? But the key thing and the principle is they are all the same. They are helping you save towards retirement. The difference is that is you on a monthly basis. That's what we're going to call pension until you die. There was a question that touched on tax. If you have been contributing and say for 25 years, and I think there was a figure of 250,000, whatever the figure is, and I'll tie this with the question around the last amendments that we see come to us that affected the pension space in terms of laws. So today, your contributions up to 30,000 are tax allowable at the payroll level. What that simply means is this: if my salary is 100,000 Kenyan shillings, the monies that I contribute into the scheme are allowed before payee computations, up to a ceiling of 30,000. An example would be, if I contribute 20,000 shillings, it's going to be, my gross is 100, minus the 20,000, I am with 80 left. So the finance person, when computing my payee deduction, they're going to compute it as though my gross is 80 and not the 100. So if I contribute up to 30, then it means when they're calculating my payee, then it's going to be on the ceiling I said is 30. So you be payee will be computed as though you are at a level of 70,000 shillings. And that's why we must all save and make use of that difference there, a tax advantage, part of the tax planning conversations that we can have in terms of the little practical steps that you can do. Because in another session, we'll be happy to demonstrate how an extra 3,000, 5,000 shillings towards the older person becomes of a bigger impact, but also saves you money today. The second part is this money will go into the scheme. They will be invested. When you're leaving a scheme, and remember these schemes are for retirement, so I'm going to focus on the payout on retirement. When you're leaving a scheme and say you're the age of 50 and above, if you are 50 years and above, there's no taxation. If your benefit was 9 million shillings, you are paid 9 million shillings, no tax. If your benefit was 5 million shillings, it is 5 million shillings, no tax. Whether you're in the scheme that pays you a third as cash lump sum, then the balance is paid on a monthly basis, no tax. Or you're in the scheme that we call Provident that will pay you the total shilling amount, there will be no tax. So if you, and the third part probably is this: maybe you're younger than 50, but you've been investing in a scheme, you've been saving in a scheme for a period of 20 years. If your answer is yes, then no tax, irrespective of age. So I talked to you about the payroll, which is capped at 30,000. Then I've talked about the payout, which is at the age of 50 plus, there's no tax. Again, if you've been in a scheme, irrespective of age, for a period of 20 years plus, there will be no taxation. Can there be a direct debit to a scheme? Now, there are two types of schemes. One is an occupational scheme. Occupation means whatever it is that you're doing. So occupational schemes are usually designed for employees of a given employer. So employees of company A will have an occupational scheme for employees of company. And the inference to that is this: it means contributions for an occupational scheme must come from the payroll. I am an employee of Minet Kenya. If I go out there and do 1, 2, 3 things like we say as Kenyans, and then I have an extra 1,000 shillings, I cannot bring it into the Minet occupational scheme because it's not from my salary. What I can put in occupational scheme is from my salary, courtesy of the relationship that I have with my employer. But you're not locked out. There are schemes that we call individual pension plan. Like the name suggests, it is an individual one. It is a plan that you're making, but it's also for your retirement. It can also be accessed as a cash lump sum. When I say individual pension plan, let you not hear just the pension part and you're thinking if I go into an IPP, we like calling them IPP. If I go into an IPP, then it means I'll be locked. No. We still have the nuances of both sides, such that then it's an individual plan, it could be pension, it could be an individual plan, it could be provident. But the direct debits from, say, your account can only be done into an individual one. And we have one of the best in this market. Just in case, just because of time, I may not go into the details of it, but please speak to us. The last part was of the difference between an annuity and an income drawdown. This will require another 30 minutes. But we don't have that. But this is what I will say. An annuity is where you take your money, you give it to an insurer, the insurer promises to pay you an agreed sum today for the remainder of your life. So I take my 6 million shillings and I buy a product or I buy a service. And what I am buying is what is called annuity, which is basically an agreed sum to be paid to me by agreed date, month on month, until I die. All right? Think about an annuity like that. You are buying something. Money moves hand. In return, you go into a contract where a series of monthly payment comes to you until you die. In a drawdown arrangement, you take your 6 million shillings, you give it to someone who continues to invest it while you're drawing down, just like the name suggests. It means you're still exposed to the market. If there's a high return, you get your money grows. If it is a depressed market and low returns, you're getting a low return. But the risk is this: if you take your 6 million shillings into an annuity, into an income drawdown, the IDD, that's what we call them. The risk you run is what happens when you draw down the whole 6 million, say in 10 years. Money is done and life is still here. And that is why these conversations, we want to continue with them. At an individual level, we want to go into the details of an annuity or an income drawdown, or can you even take a blend? Some of those advice will come your way. And that's why I'll stop by saying, please, retirement readiness is a conversation we can have with you. We will go into details and we'll make it unique between you and Minet. Let us help you as we walk towards your retirement mark. Thank you very much. And back to you, Mary.
I must say this was a very great engagement. Thank you for your participation, the questions. We are very, very thankful for the time you've taken. I want to give special thank you to Lawrence for the session, the plate that you've been able to serve us, and also to Daniel Mainga for allowing us to be comfortable in this space. We hope today's discussion has given you valuable insights. It has provoked your mind towards you being more confident as you take a retirement planning and retirement journey and planning. We believe there are more questions. This says that we should have more engagements within the companies or the schemes that we are in, and we will be able to answer all those questions. On behalf of Minet Kenya Financial Services, thank you very, very much for joining us today. We wish you a wonderful day ahead and a successful year in everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.